It's going to be a talk about management, and I'll try to demonstrate you what I think is the future of management and how we practice it now. There's the only slide I have today, so there's going to be no slides, we'll just talk. And according to my experience, every time I talk about this subject, there's a lot of questions in the room. So I decided to keep my talk as short as possible for about 20 minutes, and then I'm sure you will have questions. I was thinking about how to start, and I decided to start with explaining my experience of my work in the United States and Europe as a developer, as an architect, as a consultant, as a full-time worker, sort of. And my experience is kind of funny, so I'll try to show you a few rules which I learned. And my basic question in all cases the question was, why do I really have to work if they still pay me? So I work good, they pay me. I don't work, they still pay me. I kind of tried to understand what is actually the reason to work hard. Even though I like to work, I like to see results of my work, but I didn't know, what's the main motivation for me? Well, eventually all of them fired me, but it's not the point. My point is that I found a number of rules, which I'll share with you now, which if you use the same, you will stay in the company for some time, for sure. And it will help you to go up in the hierarchy of the company. So the first rule is overtime. You absolutely have to work overtime, and nothing explains better to your management that you're a good developer than the overtime you work for. So you have to stay after the work hours for as long as you can, but don't do it too often. So like 2-3 times a month. And that will help you to demonstrate them that you're a really reliable programmer. A good code, they don't understand good code. Amount of lines of code, amount of features is not so important. What's important is how long you stay after the office is closed. And I actually, I've been in many discussions with the management about who deserves highest salary, who of the programmers, when I was kind of on the level of management. And all the time it's the question of, this guy, he stayed with us, he stayed till noon or till midnight a few times last month, he's a really good developer. And the management understands that. They don't understand that this guy actually writes a clean code and the Java classes he creates are really easy to understand. It's not the point. What they care about is how long this guy stayed in the office. So I would say, and one overtime till midnight is more important than 1,000 lines of good code. The second rule is responsibility. Don't take personal responsibility. So always stay in the team. Don't let them assign tasks personally to you. Always say we, don't say I. So this is our task, this is our project, this is our responsibility. Because if something fails, they will definitely blame you personally. But if something succeeds, it's going to be the team success. So don't take personal responsibility. That's important. And if they catch you doing that, say that, Agile says that. So the Agile says it's team responsibility, it's not personal responsibility. So you're gonna be good. Next, don't criticize anything. Don't say bad things about the code somebody created. Don't say bad things about the architecture. You have to radiate love, appreciation, friendship, happiness. That's what will make you, a good developer. That's what will help you to go up in the hierarchy. Don't tell them that this code sucks and that code is wrong and that developer is creating this crap like again and again. That will only help you to get rejected from the team. Like in that, popular, don't be, that's my point, don't be the guy who is fighting for the truth. It's like in this famous Russian mafia game, the more you talk, the more you're trying to find who is the mafia, the higher your chances to get kicked off. So don't do that in the team. Always, like everything you see around you, the architecture, the code, everything. Next, meetings. You absolutely have to be in all meetings you can be at. So this is very important. I would even say that the senior architect, senior developers, senior architects, they don't write code. They attend meetings. So if you want to be, the more well-paid, if you want to be higher, then you should attend more meetings and write less code. This is obvious. Even organize meetings if you can. Call people together, organize meetings, talk to them. This is how you be a good developer. That's what you are if you're the good engineer. You have to do that. And actually, meetings is the only way management can understand that something is going on. They don't like people, sitting in front of the computers and doing something. They don't feel like what's going on because who knows what they're doing. They want to see us sitting together in the room and talking about, of course, business. What else? So they want to see us talking. When the management is asking what the team is doing, then okay, we're discussing something. That's great. The management is comfortable, relaxed. Okay, these guys are busy. So be the guy who's in that meetings. That's really important. The next, well, I have a friend who was, it's a funny story. I have a friend who was not really, he didn't like that meetings that much, stupid guy, so he really wanted to write code. But he was a consultant and he was paid by the hour. So he was in the office and he had to be in the office and they paid him for the time he's in the office, doing something, writing code. And they were always bringing him to the meetings. And he was like, let me get out of that meetings. I don't know what they're for. So he created a software for an application for his smartphone, an app for his Android, which was showing the amount of money he's making while sitting in the meeting. So he was just starting an app and looking at it and like, okay, all right, I'll be here because the amount is coming up and up and up. So that kind of helped him to be in the meeting. Maybe you will need the same, just create something, but be in that meetings. Next, money. Don't talk about money ever. So this is like a really wrong subject to touch. So don't mention money, don't mention your salary, don't try to discuss that, because this is what scares the management. The management gets scared if you talk too much about the money because they keep our salary secret, so we don't know how much each of us is making, and they need to keep it that way. Again, a funny story I had like a few years ago. It was a startup, and we didn't know what the salary were, everybody, so it was a secret. And then one day they were preparing for the investment or something, so the document with the salaries got leaked to the office. So we just saw this document. And then a few people were just coming to the management saying like, hey, I'm getting like 50% less than this guy sitting next to me. So what's wrong? It started, this whole conversation started. And the management was not sure what to do. It was kind of scary situation because they were afraid of people could leave the company. So they blamed, guess who? The guy who leaked the document. So that was the guy who was guilty, the guy who actually, let this document be visible by programmers. So don't touch this subject, don't mention money at all, just keep it secret and you will be fine. That will increase your chances to stay longer in this team. And the last one, you have to tell as much as you can about the corporate values. So you should work not for the code, you should not deliver the code, I would say, but you should care more about the corporate values. You should always discuss in all the technical meetings, you should always mention how big is going to be our company, how important it is for our customers. Always care about big values, not about this bloody Java code. That will also help you to be more appreciated. So you have to wear a t-shirt with the brand name, always. You have to have a cup, a mug with the brand. You have to be a part of the team. So I would say that writing good code, anybody can do. But be a good part of the team, a real member of the team, it's not so easy. So this is way more appreciated than you writing a good code. So be a team player. So that's it. So I guess you understood that I was joking, right? So all of these rules, they will help you to stay in the team, in the project, but they will ruin the project, of course. So this is not what the effective management is. And now I'll show you how we manage programmers in a completely different way. So this XDSD was created 6 years ago as an idea, as a methodology for management, and the core principle of that is basically one core principle is that everybody is paid for results. Not for the time, but for results. So all the programmers, designers, architects, everybody who is in the project, who is in the team, has to get money when the results are delivered. And there are a few, 5 things I would say, and then I will expect your questions. So I'm kind of close to the end. So first of all, the way we manage development, we write in Java. So I'm a Java developer as well. So I'm also, taking part of our teams. First of all, we give personal micro tasks to programmers. So all of our programmers, including myself, we all get tasks personally assigned to us. And each task is really small. Usually it's less than an hour, like in size and in budget. And when the task is finished, at that moment of time, the developer gets money. So we're not paying salaries by the end of the month. We're not paying for the time spent in the office. We don't even have offices. So people work remotely. They deliver results, and when results are delivered, the money comes to their account or to their bill, whatever. So we have many micro tasks. So each programmer usually have in the agenda like 15 or 20 tasks, but each of them is really small, half an hour, 1 hour micro tasks. And it's always a personal responsibility. So it's never a team. So we don't play this team thing. We always put the task on the person. If the person can complete it, the task is completed. If the person cannot do that, we'll just give it to somebody else. So we never give tasks to a group of people and then, nobody knows who is responsible. Second, we have really strict quality control after each task. So the developer, how many developers are here who write code? Okay, and that's almost everybody. And how many managers are here? Okay, just about 15 people, that's good. So we have 3 levels of control after you or me, the developer, creates code. We work through GitHub. So the task comes to the developer, then some code has to be created in a pull request. The pull request comes to us back to the repository. And then, first of all, we do the mandatory code review. So there's one code reviewer who has to validate everything and say, I like it. And we pay that code reviewer. If the code reviewer says, no, I don't like this code, we still pay that person. If the code reviewer says, yes, I like that code, after a few comments, we still pay that person. So the code reviewer, in that case, doesn't care about what's going to be the outcome of this code. If you like if I'm the code reviewer, I have no incentive. I'm not motivated to say, yes, I like it, or no, I don't like it. I mean, in any case, I will get my money. So the code reviewer kind of objectively reviews the code and says yes or no. The second level is the architect of the project, does the second review and says I like it or no. And also we pay for this review. And then this step number 3, we have a merging server which gets that code, merges together with the master branch and pushes it back. So like Nikolai was explaining yesterday, we have a strict control of the master branch, and master branch, nobody can push to the master branch. So only this machine, only this computer can actually do the merge procedure. So there are 3 steps of quality control. 1 review, second review, and then the automatic merge. So my point is that it's really difficult for the developer to push the bad code into the master branch. And at the same time, we pay only when the code gets to the master branch. So it's a big conflict. I mean, you understand how we achieve quality. So there are no compromises. So there's no need to be a friend in this environment, because when you review the code, you don't care about who the code belongs to. You just review objectively. You say yes or no, and it goes in. The rule number, not the rule, but the idea number 3 is that we call it no obligations. On one side, you as a developer can say no to any task which we give you. So the task comes to you, and here's the task, like fix this bug. If you don't feel like it, if you don't like that bug, if you don't want to work with it, you just say no. And that's it, it's our problem. It's the problem of the management. So the manager has to find somebody else and assign this task to somebody else. So programmers have no pressure, no overtime, none of these things I explained before. You just sit comfortably somewhere in Thailand, the tasks are coming to you, you just look at them and say, I don't like this one, I like that one. Usually people accept most of the tasks, but about 15–20% they reject because they just don't like the task description, they don't understand it, they don't feel like it's good enough, easy enough to implement. So we say no obligations means that we don't expect you to promise us anything. Just if you don't like it, don't accept it. But on the other side, we also don't promise you as a developer that if you don't complete it in some time, we give you some period of time. This is the task, you have to finish it in a certain amount of days. If you don't finish it, we have even if you tried, even if you wrote a lot of code, even if you submitted your pull request, but the time is over, we just say goodbye and we cancel everything and we give it to somebody else. So you don't promise us anything and we don't promise anything. So again, I'm saying sometimes people try to complete the task, they spend some time, the task is small, like half an hour or 1 hour, the developer spends 3 hours and then 5 hours and then it doesn't work, he can't or she cannot fix the bug and then complains like, hey guys, it's already 5 days and we're saying sorry about that, stop it, we throw it away. So it's kind of waste of time for the developer, but it's on both sides. Thing number 4, and then I have one more. No meetings. We have absolutely 0 meetings at all. So we never meet on, well, we don't have any office at all, so people don't sit together, that's first. But we don't see each other in Skype. We don't see each other in Slack. We don't communicate by the phone. We don't call each other. We even don't know how most of us look like. So we work right now with about 100 people. So in all of these people we work for, I'll give you some numbers a bit later, but we work for at least 2 years with these guys. And we never talk on any media except GitHub. So all our conversations happen in GitHub tickets. So here's the task, there are comments, like in open source projects. You know how they work mostly. Here's the ticket, the comments, pull requests, discussions around code, everything happens there. So nowhere we have any informal communications. So we don't talk about, weather and how was the movie yesterday. We don't have that stuff at all. So all our conversations stay strictly in the ticket, strictly attached to the specific task. No meetings where we discuss plans, agendas, problems, scrums, stand-ups, all of that. We don't have that at all. That should surprise you a little bit, I guess. And the last thing which I wanted to mention is that we randomly assign tasks to programmers, randomly. So we don't have this, we have this collective code ownership to the extreme case. So in our case, it's really collective ownership. So the entire team really owns the code. So you cannot say that this piece of code, this class belongs to Jeff. Because Jeff created it, and don't touch it because it belongs, only Jeff knows how it works. We always, when new tasks show up, when we have new bugs, new features, new ideas, new tasks, we select the person randomly through the pool of developers in the project. And usually it's about 15, 20 people in the project. So we just randomly select the person and give, this is your task to fix. And sometimes people say, hey, I don't understand because it's Jeff code, because it's not created by me, so there are some complaints, but we resolve that. Well, we resolve that, and I'll explain you later how, but the idea is that we don't have anybody in the team who is a subject matter expert, so-called. So we are strongly against the subject matter experts. We think this is the evil part of any project. So if you have somebody in your team who knows more than everybody else and who is an expert because that person knows how that piece of code works, then it's a big problem for the project. So you should get rid of that, not people, but that situations. So you should rotate people, but that's what we do. We rotate people all the time to make sure that everybody kind of understands everything on the same level. And it's not just about people understanding that code, but that's about the code being good enough to be understood by anybody else, by anybody. So it means that today, the 5 people understand that code because they were working on it for a few months. But then tomorrow I can invite the person number 6, and that person will jump in and will understand everything in like less than a day. So in order to achieve that level of maintainability of the code, we need to rotate people all the time. So we need to move them left and right in order to prevent that experts from showing up. So I'm summarizing. So this whole thing was invented as an idea 6 years ago. For the last 4 years, it's been in actively, people work with it. We completed over 25 projects, most of them on GitHub. Some of them are open source, so you can see how it works. You can see how we communicate there and how we develop code. Over 200 developers were working with us. Right now, there are less than 50 actively working, about 100 in the pool, but overall, it's 200 people actually went through the system and learned how it works. And we wrote, to my estimate, about 300,000 lines of code, mostly Java. Like 80%, 90% of that code is Java. And it's back-end systems, so it's not, easy. It's not systems which are, easy to create. It's really complex systems, mostly for big data, for data analysis, for server-side data processing, that kind of thing. That's probably what I wanted to say. And now I think you have questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You described this very interesting methodology, very interesting approach, but you described only one side. So you communicate with developers, you assign tasks, but I would like to ask you about the other side. So someone should get those business goals from the stakeholders, or I don't know, people who just want this to be done. Someone has to create this whole story, split it into those micro tasks. And could you please expand on that part? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So yeah, there are two situations basically, and the situation between them. The first is we have some clients, some of our clients are really smart, clients smart enough to understand how this whole system works, and they stay with us in GitHub, and they are able to explain what they want in GitHub tickets. So they are, after like a year of work with this model, clients, if they're technical enough, I'm not talking about clients who just say, hey, I need a new mobile app and this is my $15,000, just make it for me. I'm talking about clients who have technical people on their side, their technical team here, so they're both engineers. So they know how GitHub works, they understand that rules, and they jump into GitHub and they like that system as well. So they like to communicate with developers in an open way. So they create these requirements, they create bugs, tickets, everything. But so there are some situations where customers are really like high level and they say, I don't care about your system, about your methodology, just give me the software. In that case, in our experience, it doesn't work that well. Like it's possible. In that case, we inject another person in the project who we call analyst, who is communicating with the customer by phone or whatever on Skype and talking the language of the customer, and then bring back requirements and post them on GitHub. So we have just an extra person who helps us to, but that situation is worse. So I think clients, if they really want to get the software done, not just spend their money, but actually get results, they need to understand how software is developed. This is the reality right now. Otherwise, it's just, just waste of money. We've seen so many projects like that. Here's my money, do it for me. No problem, we spend your money, but in the end, you get something which you didn't want, something which is not going to work for you. So I strongly believe that if the customer wants to get the results, the customer has to know the rules of how programmers communicate to each other and be part of the team. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Thank you for great ideas in this presentation, but I have one question regarding task assigning. You said that nobody is obliged to take some task and can reject it. But at the same time, you say that you rotate tasks between developers so that nobody would be an expert in some narrow area to avoid specializing. But these 2 points somewhat contradictory if it's usually easier for developer to explore some narrow part of the system and take tasks only from this part of the system to make it faster because he has context in his mind and don't switch to other areas, other parts of the system. How to prevent the situation?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. We understood the question, right? So on the one side, I'm saying that we are giving tasks randomly to people, and at the same time, I'm saying that people are able to reject the task. So in that case, in the end, eventually, that's logical, that the people will actually aggregate, they will stay together with tasks which are better for them and reject others. Well, it may happen, but in this case, the programmer will lose a lot of money, first of all, because if you keep rejecting tasks, the amount of tasks coming to you will go down and down. And eventually, because we have the rate, we don't punish you like financially. We say, no problem, you don't like the task, we're not going to give it, we're going to give you something else. But if you keep saying that quite often to us, then there's a metric which says how often you reject tasks. And this metric goes up, and for you it's high, for me it's low. So when the new tasks show up, it will come to me first. And you will get less and less and less tasks. Eventually you will get like, randomly, but just a few tasks maybe a week, and will seriously affect your performance in the team financially. So you will financially want to get more tasks, and you will try to avoid that. That's what's happening. That's my experience over the last 4 years. But good question, that's logical. Maybe, I don't know how it's going to behave on large scale when we have like thousands of developers in hundreds of projects, but we haven't seen that that problem yet.
Thank you. And one more question. Are you sure that it's always possible to break the scope in such small and with fully described requirements tasks? What if some new when developer will took a task during implementation, he finds out that task is wrong estimated or some missing requirements and so on?
Yeah, good question. I'll have two answers for it. Probably I'll cover the questions you have there. So first of all, we have this rule called blame the project. We call it blame the project. So always when something comes to you as a developer, the task or the problem or the bug or a piece of code, and it's not clear for you, our mentality, our mindset, we ask our developers to think the way that don't blame yourself, don't try to understand something which is not so easy to understand. Just push it back and say, for example, I'll give you an example. You have a class and there's a ticket which says, hey, this class is not doing what it's supposed to do. For example, it's a bug. And then you open this class, this Java class, and you look at it and you don't understand how it works. So it's some code which is messy, which is not really clear, and you don't have enough time, but you have just 1 hour. So you open the task, you have 1 hour, and you open the class, and it's too big, and you can't understand. You realize that 1 hour will not be enough. So don't try, just push it back and say, create a new ticket, and say, this class, ABC, is not good enough. Refactor it for me. And then you create a new task, and then we assign this task to somebody else, and that somebody else will improve that class for you, and then you will get back in a few days to your main task. So you don't start your task until everything is clear for you, until everything is obvious. So you have documentation, you have the code, everything is clear, and then when it's prepared, then you start fixing your problem. But we pay for all the bugs you create around you. So you start your task, you have 1 hour budget, and then you start it, you say, no, I actually need here, fix. 3 tasks. So you create 3 new bugs, and we pay 3 times for you. We pay some certain amount of money for all these things you create. So you earn some money, you haven't even started to work. That's the idea. That's how we kind of help people to solve, yeah. Yeah.
And how did you come to this approach? Have you had some disappointing experiences with traditional team approach, or it just had grown from some freelance project, open project that was very efficient and you have caught the idea?
No, I explained my experience in the beginning of presentation. So I explained like what was my experience working for, in full-time in traditional projects for a few years in America and in Europe. And I just learned that this is a mess. I gave you these examples with meetings, team responsibility, these money problems with what else? These overtimes, all that. So I've seen a lot of that stuff. And actually, I had a team of developers here in Ukraine like long time ago, 10 years ago, a traditional outsourcing team of about 100 programmers in Dnipro. And we had exactly the same problems there. So most of the projects were failures. Most of the customers were not happy. We had overtimes. We had exactly the same I just explained here. So I'm sure that most of you have similar problems. I'm saying my point is the current management we have, the current management in IT, in software development, it's just not effective. It doesn't work. It's just huh? And don't you have any problems now? Well, right now we don't have that problems at all. We have different problems, of course. Yeah, we have different problems, of course, but let me explain the problems we have in the end. So let's cover the questions first. Who's the?
I have a question. The way you describe it, you utilize mostly developers' coding skills. What about design skills? Big part of our job is also to design classes, interfaces, to discuss how a system will behave, to think about architecture. Especially if we talk about senior developer, I think it's a big part of our job to discuss it and to come up with design and test it and validate design, create spike story and so on. Looks like your developers only utilize coding skills of your developers and they just have those well-defined tasks and somebody else, maybe your architect, will think about that. But probably not all developers happy to do just coding. They would like to design something and do prototypes and all this kind of investigation stuff.
Yeah, good question. Well, I understand the concern, but we don't give tasks for code writing only. Some of our tasks are for document writing, or analyzing architecture, or thinking about what's the right database to use, or thinking about what's the good approach to put this stuff on Docker, or what's the continuous delivery pipeline, or how to design continuous integration, how to configure continuous integration. So it's not about only coding. For example, there could be a task which will say, hey, right now our code is not automatically deployed to a production system. Fix it. And then somebody who's not really a low-level developer, who is kind of senior, has to jump in, look at it, and fix that problem and configure this continuous delivery pipeline. So, and sometimes we say like, look, right now here's the document, the description, I mean the architecture document, which says that we use Docker, point, period. We use Docker, period, this way and that way. And then we say, and then we create a bug which says why the Docker decision was made here. Where's the explanation? What alternatives were considered? Like why this guy or somebody who made that decision, why it was made. And then somebody steps in and says, yeah, the Docker is used because this and that. And we don't use like Rocket or whatever, some other platform because this and that. So we improve the architecture document. It's not a coding task, it's a high-level task. And everything like that is done that way. So I believe it's possible, and just my experience, it's possible to do it in these micro steps. And I mean steps, micro steps, some of them bigger, some of them smaller. But you can move ahead, not just code, you can move ahead, push ahead the architecture as well, which the architecture is documentation. It's, it has to be in paper. The architecture should not stay in the head of the architect. It has to be on paper. So if it's on paper, it's editable, it's fixable, it's discussable. So that's the answer. Yeah.
Sorry. What will you do if everybody will reject the same issue?
Yeah, sometimes good question. So what do we do if we put the ticket on somebody and then rejection, again rejection, again rejection? It happens. This is one of the problems. Somebody asked, like, what problems do we have? This is one of the problems we have. So, and we had it and we solved it. So it happens sometimes when the task is too complex. For example, we ask, it doesn't matter. We put some really serious problem to the developer and he says, I don't want to deal with that. Just give me normal Java coding task. If it happens 1, 2, 3 times and it happens about, less than 5% of our tasks, then we increase the budget. So we just put more money on the task. That's it. And I see you laughing, but what's wrong with that? This is the original budget was like 1 hour, and the rate of the developer is $40. So it was $40 the budget of the task. And we say, okay, nobody wants to solve it for 40, for 35, for 37, because different rates. Okay, let's double it. Let's give 2 hours for $80, and it really fixes the problem. Some people say, I'm not going to do it for 2x. I'm going to do it for 3x because it's so complex. And in that case, we consider, the management analyzes that. It doesn't happen often, so sometimes, like in a project, like once every 2-3 weeks. And then we say, okay, just multiply it by 3, and then the programmer picks it up and fixes it. So money solves that problem easily. And everybody sees that. What's interesting, everybody in the project can see that that guy gets 3 times more money for fixing that problem. It's not like this, I managed before, like the salary is not hidden. It's not hidden anymore. We all know these numbers. We all know that money is actually the instrument of motivating people. It's not like in traditional team, one guy gets X salary, another guy gets 2X salary, but they're completely equal contribution to the project. And nobody understands in the management what's the difference between these two programmers. Just this guy, wants 2X and this guy wants X. That's it. In our case, it's not that's it. In our case, we know why we pay more to that person because he actually is fixing that task. I think it's way more healthy for the team. Who's next?
Yeah, hello, my name is Roman. Probably couple questions. So first question that you said, people doesn't speak to each other. The colleagues do not know anything about each other, so you say this. Me, like a programmer, firstly, when I came to the project, there are a lot of developers here, they know what they're doing first week. We are setting environment, we are reading documentation, and first of all, the most important, team lead comes and helps. He explains how project works. When you're saying, so you do not need anybody else to help you, I don't believe you, actually. When this is complicated system, 50 models, they link it to each other. They work in complicated environment, Amazon system, cloud, and you say, firstly coming guy said, started writing code, man, this is not true. You need to have clear roadmap. You need to understand how this project works. You need to analyze a lot of information. And first line of code, if you be in good luck, you will write after 1 week. If you're really very smart, very clever guy. So it's my first question. You probably did not tell us
The full story, yeah? The truth.
I don't believe that you tell us full story. The second question. You know, I like to write code. Really, I live this part of my life, this code. When I write some code and I run it locally, and DevOps guy come to me, he said to me, listen, it doesn't work in cloud. And I take a seat and, okay, it's your problem. But you told us that people don't speak to each other. My code works locally. It's okay.
Yeah.
What's the next?
Yeah.
So this is my question. Where is the gap?
I got it.
in your
Yeah, I
story?
have some answers. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a good point that in traditional projects, in all projects I've seen before, the programmer jumps in, the new developer, and it takes like sometimes a month, a week. It's like Ukrainian reality because we're really like tough here. But in Europe, it's more relaxed. It's about 2 months. So for 2 months, nobody's gonna touch you. For 2 months, you can do nothing. And if somebody comes to you and say, hey, can you implement that? You say, no, I'm still getting into it. I'm still, kind of learning the system. So nobody's gonna touch you for 2 months, maybe even 3 if you're smart enough. And then you will start actually writing some code. In Ukraine, it's like 1 week because 1 week sounds crazy to me. In our case, it's literally half an hour. So you jump into the project, we give you, and it happens. I can show you real examples. You can see our projects on GitHub. The developer jumps in. Here's the task for you. Like I said before, and I have an article in my blog. It's called It's Not a School, and I explain what do I mean. So the developer jumps into the project. It finds that is not clear. That it will take me a month to understand what's going on. And this is the problem of a project, not a problem of a programmer. The project doesn't want you to learn something. It's not a school. We're not teaching you here. Our customer is not paying to make you smarter. It's not a school. This is not what the budget is for. We don't want to teach our programmers. We want our programmers to deliver code. If they can't deliver code, it's our fault. It means that the project, the artifacts, the code, the documentation is not clear enough. And that's what we are ready to pay for. And that's what the customer can invest money into. Because when we teach programmers and they spend 2 months, 3 months to learn that and then they quit, it's a waste of money. We just wasted 3 months of our budget. We just paid salary for 3 months and then this guy says, see you later. I'm going to go to another project and spend 3 months there. So it becomes a school. We just teach programmers. What's the point? Instead, we need to use that money in order to improve the code base. And then eventually we can remove all programmers, put new people in there, and they will next day understand what's going on and pick it up. That's what I said, we don't like subject matter experts. It's a big problem for all projects. We just found a way to solve it. And I'm telling you that it has to be solved. You cannot have experts in a project if you want your project to be, not you, the customer. If the customer wants the project to be successful and wants the project to be maintainable in the future, experts is the enemy. Experts are the enemy. So if you have experts in your team, if you have that people who learned a lot and they know a lot, it's a risk for you. Like imagine yourself paying money for all that. You pay money, you invest, people learn, and then people leave, and you lose everything. So what we do, we just say, hey, here's the task for you. If you don't understand how the code is organized, if you don't know how this cloud deployment is done, if you don't know how this DevOps work, it's quite complicated. Tell us about it. Tell us that the documentation is not complete, and we'll fix it. We'll spend money for that. We'll fix the documentation, and nobody else will ask the same question in the future. That's how open source projects are doing. In open source projects, nobody's going to teach you how to use Docker. You just open the documentation. You see everything there. Because they spend money there. They spend money into improving documentation, into improving code base, into improving artifacts, not us. It's not a school. It's a project. We're doing business here. So that's our approach. So that's kind of an answer. Yeah.
Thank you for the speech. I have a few kind of related questions. So you mentioned that there is a deadline for each task, and if a developer cannot hit the deadline, task is cancelled.
Yeah.
Who sets that initial deadline for that task?
Well, yeah, that's a question. Good question. We just give the same deadline for all tasks. Because they're micro tasks, So we don't have big tasks like, deploy the system to the server and finish everything. We just have micro steps. So that's why we have many tasks. In some projects, we have thousands of tasks, literally thousands. And because they're so small, usually we give 10 days for each task, 10 days. And in most cases, in 80% of tasks, they complete in 10 days, sometimes even less. So good developers, our statistics show that the good developers, they complete in 3.5 days, 3.5 days. From the moment I give you the task till the moment I pay you. So I give you the task, you understand what to do, you fix it, you send pull requests, there's code review, merging, everything, and then you get the payment. So 3.5 days, it's more or less what we have right now with good developers. Bad developers, they spend sometimes 15 days and they lose some tasks because they cannot, for example, they create something, then send it for the code review, and the code reviewer says, no, not really good, just redo it, and then there merge conflicts, and then time, and then the weekend, and then boom. The task is gone. So, but we don't, like answering your questions, because there are many tasks. We work with big numbers. Because of that, we can manage them like numbers. So we don't have like critical tasks who we need to.
So another question in this case. So this approach requires some kind of really strong analyst or product owner to manage all that tasks.
Well, we have project managers and we have software for that, yes. And that's what we were, been developing for years.
And
yeah.
with this, like deadlines and possibility to cancel task by developer just when developer don't want to take the task and so on and so forth, how you manage the risks with deadlines, delivery deadlines?
Well, this is the second problem we have. So we are not fast right now. We're not, we are slower than if you put 3 developers in the room and then stay next to them and make them coffee. They will be faster, yes, than us. That's for sure. Because they will be in the same room, they will work overtime, they will wear t-shirts, everything will be fine, and they will be really faster. But on the long run, if you take like a year of work, and if you look at the quality of code we produce, and if you look at the maintainability of this code, if you look at the cost of all this development, we are 5 times better, according to our estimates. So, but on the short run, like I get your question. Yes, we have a risk of losing some time and delivering something slower than a team who stay together. So if the customer says, I need it in 2 weeks, we just say, no, we can't do it. I mean, don't hire us, because we're not about that. We're not about fast delivery. We are about the right delivery. We deliver the code in the right way. That's what I think. But this is the problem we're thinking how to fix in the future. So this is what we're working on right now. But I think that problem is smaller than the problems the traditional teams have.
Hello, thank you for your speech. I have a question. Does developer care about product, like in general? Could a developer be like involved in how it works? So it's good for outsource when you have a really good task with good explanation. But if I think it could be done like another way, or I think this product need some little like other thing there. Could a developer create some or propose some issue?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got the question. Yeah, the question is about creativity. So how do do our developers actually contribute to the product big picture, or they just code writing monkeys? It depends on the developer. So we don't ask, like in a traditional team, we all want our developers to be involved, to be part of the team, like I said before, be team members and wear t-shirts. In our case, we don't care about that. If you don't want to care about the product, don't care. We don't expect you to love the product, to care, or even understand what the product is for. So you have your personal tasks, you have your individual responsibility. Here's the clear scope of what needs to be done. You do it in the right way. You write a clean Java code, a good code. You follow all the guidelines. You make sure it works. We pay you for that. And many people are like that. Many good developers, that's my experience over 4 years, many developers just don't care about this marketing, noise. They just don't want to know what this product is about. They don't believe in this product. They don't want to believe in this product because it's not their business. And I'm kind of one of them, because I've seen so many failed products and so many failed projects that the next one comes to me, who cares? Just pay us for writing the clean code which will work. We kind of see that like 99 of these startups, they just fail. So you're probably one of them. So, okay, we'll just write it for you, but don't expect us to be involved in your product thinking. That's part of that some developers are like that. But some developers really care about that. And I've seen them too, and we have them in our teams. And they really like care about what's the future, how we can improve it in general. And these people, they suggest features and ideas as new tickets. So they just start working on it and see like, hey, this is the product which could be better in that way, in that way, in that way. And they submit tickets, and we pay them for that. So we pay for new tickets. You submit new ticket, you get the money. You're paying, you get new ticket, if the ticket is properly explained. If the idea makes sense, then we pay you for that. So if you want to be creative, you make money. If you don't want to be creative, nobody's going to blame you for that. Just be a Java developer and develop the good code. So we have two types of people. And I think both of them, I mean, I'm also kind of sometimes of that type. Sometimes I see something interesting and I want to contribute and I submit a ticket, I get some money for it. Why not? But in most cases, I kind of skeptical and this product thing is not for me. So I'm not against creativity. I like creativity. I want developers and we want developers to contribute, but only if they really want to. We don't make it an obligation. We don't make it a necessity for them, like a rule, like you have to be. If you're not part of the team, if you don't care about the product, we just kick you off. You're not a good team player. This is wrong. It's not a technical discussion. Technical people have to deliver technical results. I believe that. So